Okay, we are ready. Yes, I think. Okay. So hello everybody, and welcome to 𝗗𝗲𝘀𝗃𝗃. Welcome to a new online experience on our platform. I'm really excited to be here to start this appointment. But first, just a quick presentation. I'm Giuseppe, and today I'm not alone. Next to me, she's Erika. Hi, Erika, how are you?
Hi, everybody. I'm fine, great, ready to start.
Perfect. Erika, she's my colleague, and we are both part of the 𝗗𝗲𝘀𝗃 marketing and communication team. However, the main speaker, the protagonist of this event is Nitesh Sharoff. Hi, Nitesh. Thank you for being here.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much, Giuseppe, for having me.
Analytics and growth specialist, thank you for accepting our invitation and for bringing here your experience to deepen the use of Google Analytics. I'm really happy to share this theme with our community, and this is the agenda. You can see that it is so dense, so I'll be quick, and then I give the floor to Nitesh. But first, I want to tell you something more about 𝗗𝗲𝘀𝗃. And so let's start with a question. Who are we? We are 𝗗𝗲𝘀, yes, perfect, but we are a startup, and we were born in 2014. Now we are based in Italy, in particular in Milan, and we like defining ourselves as the point of contact between students, young graduates, and companies. It comes as no surprise that the transition between university studies to the entry of the world of work, it's not often easy, it's not a piece of cake. So we have a remarkable goal, and it is helping you realize your ambition, helping our community realize their ambition. How? We have cutting-edge structure. On one end, we have our community made up of students and young graduates, and on the other, we have our companies. We collaborate with lots of companies, big enterprises, but also small and medium-sized ones. And in the middle, you can see our main products, and so online experiences and also job offers.
Thank you, Giuseppe, for your introduction. So hello, everybody. I'm Erika. And as you said, one of our core values is to help students and young graduates find the right job opportunity and to start the more suitable career path. And we want to pursue this goal thanks to our online experiences, which are mainly free digital interactive appointments in which you can meet companies and businesses, their teams. You can get in touch with recruiters and also important professional figures as, for example, project managers, developer, or also marketing experts, as today with Nitesh. And the aim of these online experiences is to let the participants and you find more about professional work that may interest you. And you can see on the slides our next online experiences already scheduled for next week. We will have the head of social media at Coca-Cola, 𝗗𝗲𝘀𝗃𝗃, who will introduce us to the world of digital communication. And it will be on Tuesday, the 26th. And then we will have a young but very skilled project manager, who is 𝗗𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃. And the online experience with 𝗗𝗃𝗃𝗃 will be on Thursday, the 28th, and he will tell us more about his role, his tasks, and maybe he will also give us some tips on how to become a project manager if this is your dream job. Then, except for our online experiences, we also have all the part related to job opportunity, as Giuseppe said. And we have more than 250 companies who are actively publishing job opportunities and job offers. And the peculiarity of these job opportunities is that they are strictly related to every user course of study. So, for example, if you're studying marketing, you will find on 𝗗𝗃𝘀𝗃𝗃 just those figures that are related to marketing roles. And from next few months, you will find a lot of paid job opportunities also for companies located in the UK. So stay tuned. And I think that we are quite ready to start, right, Giuseppe?
Yes, we are ready. But first, I want to suggest you how to participate in these online experiences in the best way. And so you can use the chat below to begin a discussion. But also there is the possibility to switch on your microphone and to have the possibility to ask questions, curiosity directly to Nitesh, and I suggest you turning on your camera, and don't worry if your background is not the Maldivian paradise, don't worry about it. It is an informal event, and so let's get started, and Nitesh, it's up to you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Giuseppe. Thank you, Erica. I'll just get my screen started and we will kick off. Let me know if that's coming through okay.
Yes.
Great. All right, everyone, thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to talk to you about real-world problems and how we solve them using 𝗗𝗲𝘃. Giuseppe's done a quick intro on me, but I'll just go really quick. My name is Nitesh Sharoff. I'm an analytics and growth specialist, and I work at Growth Runner. I absolutely am obsessed with behavioral analytics and psychology. I've done way too many Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager implementations. And if you don't find me nerding out on my screen, you will definitely find me showing off my ninja vegetable chopping skills in the kitchen. Cool. So what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to give you a quick intro on behavioral analytics. We're going to go into a lot more about 𝗗𝗲𝘃. And we will do 4 real-world problems. So these are very typical scenarios and typical questions a business would ask you and how we would go about solving it. And I've got ample time for Q&A. So of course, if anyone has any burning questions during the slideshow, feel free to drop it in the chat. Or as Giuseppe said, feel free to sort of switch on your microphone. Happy to attend that. We will have quite a bit at the end. So if anyone wants to write those down, we can handle them in the dedicated Q&A as well. Great. So let's first set the scene. Let's say you worked for a large e-commerce store and people regularly bought products from this store. So if we just think about the data that you would have from these purchases, you'd have, people's names, maybe the product they bought, their addresses so that you could ship these things out to them, potentially email addresses, phone numbers, things like that. But some of the things that are important for the business, you may not have. For example, where did they come from? Did they, I don't know, find you on Google? Did they find you on an Instagram ad? Or were they just browsing your blog and they found you, and clicked on that and got there? And these are crucial questions for us to know prior to purchase. And these are, essentially, it's very, very important for businesses to be able to answer this. And this is where the whole concept of behavioral analytics tools kick in. And although there's a lot of different behavioral analytics tools, Google Analytics is the most popular, primarily because it's free. So a lot of people have taken that on board. But Google has introduced a brand new product called Google Analytics 4. And this is the replacement product for its predecessor, Universal Analytics. And we will stop seeing Universal Analytics in 2023. So just a quick 4 or 5 bullet points on 𝗗𝗲𝘃. Newest analytics product. It's free. It will replace Universal Analytics. It's totally different. Unfortunately, they have completely revamped it. Fortunately or unfortunately, depends on how you look at it. And just to let you know, they are still building features to this tool. It was launched very, very quickly, but it is looking really good. And we're going to cover all of this today on how to get data into the tool, how to look at reports, and how to use those reports to solve real-world questions. I'm just going to pause here. Everyone okay? Any questions? Burning questions? It's always good. Great.
For now, everything's okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Cool. So we'll just start with a really high-level intro on how we get data into 𝗗𝗲𝘃. So in 𝗗𝗲𝘃, everything is known as an event. So we just continuously send events when things happen on our website. So for example, let's say you were to come onto my website and we wanted to be able to send this into Google Analytics. So someone has viewed a page and that was important to us. We could work with a developer and have them send a page view into Google Analytics 4. So one event of named page view would be sent in. If we wanted to track, I don't know, people clicking around on the navigation bar, we could also work with a developer and have them send a navigation click into Google Analytics 4. And the naming convention that I'm using is, some of it is standard, some of it is not, but really sky is the limit with how you want to track your data. There are a few limitations, which we won't get into, but just note that you can track anything and everything under the sun. You know, if you wanted to track 5,000 events, you can absolutely do that, but too many events and you will definitely need to pay for GA4. There is a paid plan that sort of larger enterprises use. Definitely, if you can avoid it, that would be best. Cool. Let's jump into GA4. And before I kind of show you a little bit about the interface and talk through some of the sections, I'm going to be using the Google Merchandising Store demo account. So if you don't have GA4 and you don't have the ability of installing this, but you still want to familiarize yourself with it, I've got a little QR code on here that'll take you to the demo store page, and you can perfectly, start playing with GA4 today. I would advise you maybe grab the link and stay with me, and you can check it out at the end because we will be doing this together. I'm just going to wait a couple of seconds and we will carry on. And of course, this is recorded, so if anyone does miss it, you're more than welcome to log into Tutored, and you should have that available. Giuseppe, am I right, or did I make that up?
Exactly,
okay.
exactly. Yes.
Great. All right, perfect. All right, I'm going to switch slide. So welcome to GA4, and this is what the interface looks like. So the first thing we see is we've got a nice interface telling us important pieces of information that would be relevant to us. For example, in the midsection, we've got how many users have come to the site, how many of those users were new users, and how much revenue was sent in, as well as the engagement time. It also tells us how many people are currently or in the last 30 minutes have been on our site, so we know we're still tracking data. And on the left-hand side, there's lots of options and lots of reports that we can use. So just to talk through these sections, the reports are pretty much pre-made reports that Google Analytics offers you that you can use. And I'll show you what that looks like. So if we were to click in on the reports, you'll see this sub-menu on the left-hand side that has appeared. So we have all of the options that you have here. And these are just categorized reports that we can use. For example, acquisition would be a lot more about how people found you. Engagement is more about what they did on your site. Monetization speaks for itself, but it's revenue related. And retention is how are you keeping your users? How are people coming back to you? And you've got demographics and tech, which we'll get into in a second. Within the interface on the top right, we've got the date range. So you can filter this for a period that you're looking at. And I'm going to just pop into the engagement section. I've just expanded this, and I'm just going to go into events. And down here, you're going to see, previously I showed you that we were sending page view in. These are all the events that are available and have been sent into the Google Merchant Store account. And you'll see third down, you'll see page views. So they are also collecting page views for every page. Cool. Great. All right, so let's talk seriously about how we would use this, right? So imagine your manager would come to you and they wanted to know, what marketing channels are driving purchases. So by this, I mean, what we're spending money with influencers, maybe on Google ads or equivalent, which of those marketing activities are actually leading to purchases? And this is a question that is crucial for any business, as you can imagine. So the way we would tackle this is we'd pop back into Google Analytics, we'd click in on reports, we'd open up the acquisition section, and we'd click on traffic acquisition. I'm just going to scroll down on here, and you can see on the left-hand side, Google Analytics 4 has automatically grouped all of our marketing activities into these sections, and it's a lot easier for us to see how people are behaving. So for example, we could see how many, we could see sort of the event counts, the conversions, the total revenue per channel, which is vital for any business. Now, if we wanted to only look at purchases, Firstly, you should know that events can be marked as conversions. And this just means it is a valuable event for the business that they want to produce specific reports on. And it just has a few more features that we'll have. So if we just look at the conversions area, they have already marked this a purchase as a conversion. So all we would do here is we would click on the drop down all events, and we would find our purchase event, select it, and you'd see that the report would change. So the revenue has changed. You'll see the conversions are the amount of events that have been sent through. And we're able to report on marketing activity in literally 3 clicks, which is super powerful. So in this instance, if someone was asking us, how are paid search ads doing? We could say, well, we've had 16 sales and $729 from there. So I really don't think that's your best marketing effort. And essentially, we could give this information back to marketing teams and even the business. Pretty cool, in my opinion, at least. Great. Erica, any questions on there?
Yes.
There's just one question,
Exactly.
from Mary. And she said, could you please link us some courses on 𝗗𝗲𝗲? Thanks. But maybe we can do that later.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, there are free courses, I believe, available. If not, there's a few people in the industry that do really good ones that we can definitely talk through. Cool.
Of course.
Thanks. Thank you, Mary, for your question. Great. So let's go into another scenario. Suppose, obviously, now that we're giving the business data, they're excited, they want to know more. And let's say the design team are very keen to translate our website. And they're like, okay, we have it in English right now, but we want to move to another language to essentially drive more people from different areas. And so they said, well, what language should we translate our site to? And so, we'd sort of take this back and speak to them, and we'd say, okay, well, if we were to give you, the countries where people were coming from, then maybe we could decide if those countries have languages that are important to us. And, because of that, we could go ahead and implement this. So how we would do this in 𝗗𝗲𝗲, we'd pop back into our report section. We'd open up the demographics tab, and we'd click on demographic detail. And demographics is a little bit about where people are and questions. All those questions kind of lie in here. We would open this report up, and you'd see on the bottom hand that you'd have all of the countries and how many users are being driven. So United States is primarily English, so we're covered over there. But what's really interesting is the second country on the list and the third are China and India. And if you look at China, they're driving, quite a few users. And we're seeing, data come through, and it could be interesting. And if we look at the engagement rate, you can see out of all the countries, they're the least engaged. So it could mean that, maybe they're having language barriers, and we could feed this back to the teams that could then do their proper research, but we're giving them a direction to go in, which is invaluable for them. And Google Analytics 4 has over 150 different dimensions and metrics that it tracks automatically. So right now we just saw country, but it's also tracking screen size, your operating system, device category being mobile, desktop, or similar. Are you using an Apple? Are you using another brand? All sorts of stuff is tracked, and there's a lot more as well. All right, one more question for all of you. So let's say the design team was very interested. They said, hey, we want to, rework our site, and we just need to know, are people using mobile more or desktop more? Because we want to really make the site work properly for one of these devices or both, but we just need to know which one we should do first. Of course, you're thinking, oh, this is just too easy. They're going to go at us again. I'm just kidding. But the way we would do it is we would open up the tech section inside of the reports. We would click on tech details, and this one is a little buried, but we would just click on browser over here. It would pull out a drop down, and we could go ahead and click on device category, and device category will then roll up all of this into the types of devices. So we could see desktop, mobile, tablet, and smart TV. I'm just going to scroll to the right so you can have a look at the revenue. And you can see, for example, desktop is driving the most revenue And we see mobile has, I'm just going to flick back. You can see mobile has a similar amount of users. So we've got 26,000 users coming in, but it's driving, you know, very, very little, about less than 10% of sales compared to desktop. So, you know, we're clear desktop is the winner, but I'd love to know from you, you know, if you were asked to optimize this, should we do mobile first or desktops first? Based off of the data, what would you think would be a good starting point?
Let's hear. I can start if there's no one who is. I'll say desktop, seeing the data. Of course, because looking at the revenue, I think it's quite a visible data that can help us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very valid.
Nitesh, Lara wrote, I will start with mobile because it is the one that can be optimized more.
Absolutely. Very, very true, Lara. I think that's a very, very valid point. And coincidentally, it's the one that I would probably do as well, because it kind of illustrates that there's an issue there. So it could be that something is broken and no one has realized, but we should definitely, I mean, it's very clear what Erica said is correct. Desktop is driving most of the revenue. We cannot ignore that. You know, can we run optimizations on mobile and see if we can get something to work? Absolutely. And this is where the data needs to be interpreted, and it gets, you know, like, it just means we need to go a little deeper and understand, okay, well, where are mobile users dropping off? And, you know, this is a lot of what an analyst would do in their job, a behavioral analyst specifically. Cool. All right. So now that all the easy stuff is out the way, guys, I know you're like, oh, that's it, so easy. Are you ready for a slightly trickier question? I hope the answer is yes, because we're going to do it anyway. Cool. So I'm just going to start.
We are ready.
Yeah, go on, Giuseppe. I like it. Great. So I'm just going to start you off, and you may already know this, but I want to talk through what a funnel is. And a funnel looks like this, and it just basically means we've got more people at the top starting an action and less people at the bottom. So if you think about an e-commerce store, at the top of the funnel is maybe looking at a product, and down below is purchasing that product. And you'll see people just fall out and they don't complete all of the steps. Now, just to recap, previously you saw my site. We were sending in events like PageView, like other events, but who's stopping us from sending e-commerce events in? So by that, I mean, you know, the actual funnel steps, we can send them in as events, right? So assume that I have a dummy website over here. You can see, and this is the product page. It is horribly designed, as we can see, but it's functional. So we have a product called Album. And when people see and land on this product, we could send them an event the same way we're sending in PageView. We could send in a view item event into Google Analytics for example, right? So someone viewed an item, viewed a product, whatever you want to call it. And let's say they progressed through the funnel and they were to add this to add to cart. We could now send in an add to cart into Google Analytics 4. If they, you know, went on to the shopping cart, we could send a view cart in. They started checkout, you know, they clicked on proceed to checkout. We could send in a begin checkout event, and so on and so on. So adding shipping info, payment info, and finally leading to a purchase, an order confirmation page. And I'm hoping everyone here has placed an order online, has done this at some point. I'm assuming they have, given COVID had no way of getting anything else to us. But this would be a typical flow, and we could have data send from Google Analytics, sorry, from our browser, from the user's browser to Google Analytics that we can report on. Cool. All right, the business is back. So the business asks us, they are keen to optimize and, you know, they really want to get the most money out of their checkout process. And they are like, where is the biggest drop off in our funnel? So this is now a fairly tricky question, and it's not available in our reports traditionally, not yet at least. So we'd have to create this. And the beautiful thing is GA4 has an area called Explore. And Explore means you get to create these yourself. And if you look at the top, there's an empty blank template for a funnel. And we could click on this, configure it, and we could see where the drop-off is. So for example, I worked a bit of my magic in the background here just to save you the trouble, but essentially this is what we would end up with on a report. So you can see down here in the steps, I have created view item, add to cart, begin checkout, and purchase. I've skipped some steps in the middle just to make this simpler and easier to visualize. I've got my date range selected up here. And this is my main report. And I don't know if everyone can see that okay, but I'll read through it as well. So over here, how to interpret this report, how to see how many people abandoned a specific area in the funnel is we would read it as people that progressed from view item to add to cart, or rather people that dropped off. This is the abandonment rate. So that means nearly 76% of people did not add to cart. Over here, we've got from add to cart to begin checkout, 71% of people did not proceed. And then finally, we've got from begin checkout to purchase, and all of the steps in the middle, we have 50% of people progress. So I'm going to open this up to everyone. Where do you feel is the biggest drop off in our funnel? Don't be shy.
Lara said from add to cart to begin checkout.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Add to cart to begin checkout, we've got a 71% abandonment rate, which is very big. Absolutely. That's definitely one we should look into. Anyone else? Go on, Giuseppe.
I agree with Lara.
You agree
For
with
now,
Lara?
I agree with Lara. Yeah.
Perfect. Giuseppe, what do you think?
Maybe the first.
So from view item to add to cart, that stage, right? Absolutely.
Fabian wrote agree with Lara. Roberto says from 1 to 2.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. So this is really cool, and I really appreciate all of these answers coming in. So we are seeing the biggest drop off between 1 and 2, but this is really interesting because if I were to ask you where you would focus your optimization, and all of you have purchased before, and I said, hey, if we were to go back to the team and say, this is, the best place you can optimize, where is it going to be? I want you to think about when you shop online. If you see a product, how likely are you to add it to your cart? Like, in what stage of 1, 2, and 3 are you invested? So looking at a product and adding to cart, it's a little higher up in the funnel. Maybe you're interested, maybe you're not, maybe you're just storing it in your basket, you're not too sure. Now, if you're going add to cart to begin checkout, you're a little more serious about it, right? You're a little more serious, you're a little more committed. And if you're going begin checkout to purchase, you are very committed, right? You've started the flow, maybe you've entered your details in, you're a lot higher and closer to purchasing. So these efforts, it really depends on where you think we're going to get the most value and where the company feels. So for example, if let's say someone argued that begin checkout to purchase, even though there's 50%, if we just get, 5% more, that means we're going to get purchases immediately. And it's a good argument as well. If someone else said, well, add to cart to begin checkout, we can definitely move people through. They're a little more invested, but maybe, it's a bit tricky to get to the cart, whatever it may be, also very valid. So again, this is up for interpretation and it's up for the business to decide. And normally you just get in a group, you present your data, you look at more data, maybe you ask some users and you'd be able to decide which one we should focus on first. Great. Any questions on this? Nope. All right, great. We've got a good Q&A section in a bit, so we're doing good on time. All right, so these are the 4 real world problems that I wanted to go through, and I don't want to do too much more today. I do want to open it up for questions in a bit. before I do, I'll just run you through a little bit about how these analytics tools can help. So as you've seen, this tool opens up a myriad of possibilities for us. We can analyze and segment data however we'd like. We have the ability to only look at people who have purchased and what do they do when they come back. We can look at people that only bought from a marketing ad and how do they behave. And the data is unlimited on how we can slice and dice it. And most businesses are using this to sort of increase their conversion rates, to troubleshoot user behavior, improve marketing ROI. A lot of people are using it to increase the average order value as well. If we're smart about how we place upsells, did that impact the business? Did it go better, worse? Which products responded better? All of these kind of things. And these are, as an analyst, you're supporting the business a lot. And by doing that, you're able to answer these questions and help the business evolve. And my job as an implementation analyst and essentially someone who comes in to make sure Google Analytics is implemented correctly, I work with the business to understand what are they measuring, why are they measuring it, and then I work with the developers to make sure that I can translate the business needs to technical documentation for the developer. So in our previous example, things like, a page view, it's being able to tell the developer, I want a page view to fire when this happens. I want this extra information to go in, like the page title or whatever it may be. Great. As I said, my presentation is more heavy on the Q&A. So I haven't got too much more for you. I'm more than happy to open up to Q&A and we can run through anything you'd like to do.
Thank you, Nitesh.
Thank you, Giuseppe.
Now we are waiting for some questions, but I wrote a consideration because I think that your presentation was really clear from the beginning, but also funny and engaging. But I was thinking that Google Analytics teaches us that if you want to work in the digital area, you have to know tools, functions, but also some tricks to move into this area. But at the same time, you have to keep up with important updates, news from legal, but also social and cultural fields. Do you agree? To better interpret the data we work with.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. Even if we think about things like weather, if we just think about, let's say you're an ice cream parlor and that's your business and you sell ice cream, the weather is going to be very dependent on the data and the sales. And if we don't factor that in, then, we could be misinterpreting the data and saying, oh, sales have dropped because of. So you're absolutely right. There's a lot of other factors to consider in a business to be able to produce the data. So usually we don't present the data in an opinionated manner. We don't say 100% work on begin checkout to purchase and you will see an increase. We just let people know what the data suggests, because as you said, Giuseppe, there's a million other factors that can contribute, but we're saying this is what the data is seeing, this is what we're seeing. And a lot of businesses do A/B tests. So they have an idea and they build out an A/B test, and that's how they 100% know if things are working or not.
Thank you, Nitesh.
Thank you. Cool. I think Lara has a question. Lara, go for it.
Yes. So Lara, I
think it worked.
Hi, Lara.
Hi. So first of all, thank you for the presentation. It was super nice. I have two questions, if that's not too much. So the first one is from a proper, complete legal aspect. We can do a ton of things with Google Analytics, but is it already stopping us from doing something illegal and recording data that we should not have? Or is it something that we have to know ourselves and know that we should not track it?
Of course, that's a very, very good question. And to be honest, Google Analytics has been in the news a lot because of this. Normally, there will be a legal department and a compliance team that should be doing all of this for you. The laws are very tricky around what you can track and can't track. But for example, in the UK, you would not be able to track people without asking them to track them. And Google has released new features in GA4 called consent mode. And this is tracking people anonymously with no data whatsoever. So we know people have visited pages, but we wouldn't know who, we wouldn't drop any cookies. So it's like a privacy safe way of tracking. Again, I'm not a lawyer. Your legal team would definitely have to advise you on that, on whether you can use it, whether it's safe or not.
Yeah, I understand. Cool. Good to know. Definitely good to know. And the second part is you said that you're working with developers. So now the question is, essentially what you're saying is that without a development team, you cannot work with Google Analytics because you wouldn't be able to connect the events that are happening to Google Analytics, right?
Yeah, great question as well. The answer is it depends. If you're tracking very simple things, Google Analytics 4 also works on another tool called Google Tag Manager. And Google Tag Manager is a little more friendly to work with. And if you're familiar with it, you could implement GA4 without needing a lot of support from a developer. But if you're doing very advanced things, like for example, if you want to send purchase data, you want to send, how many, product information as well, so the tool can produce these reports, it's very probable you're going to need the involvement of a developer.
Cool. So thank you. That was it. And thank you for your answer and for your time.
No problem. Thank you for the question, Lara.
Thank you, Lara.
So we have a question from Mary, and she asked if you can show us some example. I don't know, maybe to what related. So Mary, if you want to give us some details so we can help you and give some example, or if you want to turn on your microphone as Lara. And then we have also another question from Fabian. And he says, in your opinion, which are the 3 most important analytics to monitor every day?
Oh, that is a very tricky question. Definitely your user count is, how many users are coming to the site is very important. I think it really depends on your business. For example, if your business was e-commerce, then, monitoring and seeing are there dips in purchases by products, things like that would be very relevant. If you're a lead gen business, when I say lead gen, I mean, people fill in forms and then you contact them. So, large software sales or things like that, then how many form submissions are sent in would be very important. But this normally what we see is a lot of each of the departments that are involved will have their own set of metrics that they need to report on. So the business is saying, hey, you need to monitor these. You own this KPI. And these are things that those businesses would tell us and say, hey, I need this information. And as an analyst, you could produce that for them, produce a dashboard, and they could monitor it. So it really depends. If I was a small business, then I would monitor what's very relevant to me, which is, am I seeing a drop in users, which will explain my drop in purchases, things like that. Tricky question, though. I like it.
Really. We're waiting something more by Mary, but Veronica wrote, is it possible to compare current data with past data from the same period of time?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. And we still got time. So why don't I quickly do a live demo? And these are the ones that we encourage never to do on a live presentation, but we're going to give it a try. And if it goes wrong, we will. I'll just quickly share my screen and I'll just show you where that's located. Very, very good question.
Yes. In the meantime, Fabian wrote, thanks a lot for your answer and presentation. It was really interesting. Okay.
Oh, great.
Thank you,
can you see my browser tab by any chance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So you see Google Analytics. All right. So I'm just going to pop into reports real quick. And let's say, for example's sake, we just wanted to see how many users had come in the previous year and just compare that, right? So what we could do in this date range up here, I'll just let the report load, is we could click on this and you have this lovely compare feature. And you could switch this on and you could look at, for example, the same period last year, and it's going to automatically see your dates and check what happened last year. You can go ahead and hit apply. And it should produce another line for us on here. And let's just wait for that to load. All right, cool. And you can see, I don't know if you can see that there's a really faint blue line. And this is showing you what happened, like how many users came in last year. And this you can do in any section of the report. So any of these areas, you could switch on this compare feature and it would show you how things worked in that previous period. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Cool. Thanks for the question. Great. Thank you, Veronica.
Okay, so we have Mary, and she said, I'd like to view some real cases on GA if it's possible. So I don't know, Nitesh, is it possible?
When you say real cases, what do you mean, Mary?
Let's see.
Yes. And then Nitesh, I have a second question, but we wait, Mary, I don't know.
Mary, if you're comfortable switching on your mic, you're more than welcome to.
Yes, if you want to click raise hand, I'll give you the possibility to switch on your microphone. Okay, anyway, Nitesh, which is the most frequent mistake when using Google Analytics? The error you must avoid.
Absolutely. Oh, I've seen so many silly things in my years. I think just because you see the data doesn't necessarily mean, like, never attach. So what happens a lot is people say, our checkout is broken. They don't know where they got the idea from. They are just like, our checkout is broken. I am convinced our checkout is broken. And so what they do is they go into the tool and unintentionally, they're looking for broken data. So they'll say, oh, look, the conversion rate dropped because our checkout is broken. And so they present this data back to the business and they're like, checkout is broken and that's why. And everyone does this massive, changes and everything, and nothing changes. So I would say the best way to approach looking at this data is take your opinion out of it. If you have, you think, hey, could the checkout be broken? And it's for you to then go in with that attitude. And if you're seeing, hey, this is consistent, like your bias is really big and we don't realize how biased we are. And I've seen horrible presentations in board meetings where people are like, this is broken. And they spent, I know a company, I can't name who, they spent 20 million on fixing a problem and it didn't do anything. There was no change. And I was like, ouch, whoever, so I'd say that's the biggest one. So be very, very careful with that.
Thank you. I think it is frequent and bias are dangerous, maybe.
Absolutely.
Okay, Erika, we have Mary.
Mary.
Again.
Yes, her microphone doesn't work. Don't worry, Mary. And she said, I'd like to view, for example, a real dashboard that you use every day, some tricks. So maybe which is the dashboard that you use the most, the essential one? Yeah,
I'm under NDA. I do a lot of work for clients and every single one of them that I'm actively on, I'm on NDA. I can't show you. I'm trying to think. Could I get away with hinting it to you? Essentially, what they normally do is the business looks for very high level information. So Google Analytics is one source of data. You understand that Google Analytics doesn't track everything. So if someone, has an ad blocker switched on their browser, it actually blocks Google Analytics as well, which means we could miss purchases, things like that. So what a lot of people do is they take the real order data and they expose that on a dashboard. So they use another product called Google Data Studio that has the ability of taking data from multiple sources and producing these dashboards for you. And so they take order data, they take user data from Google Analytics, even though it's an approximation and that we're missing a little data, it's good enough for them to monitor trends. If we think about an e-commerce, the metric that I really, really like is revenue per user or revenue per session. And these are very useful to monitor. So how much revenue per each session? Because if sessions go crazily up, then this metric is going to be affected. If purchases go really down, this metric is going to be affected. So it's a very good one to balance people coming to your site and purchases being made. And I like it a lot. for e-commerce, of course.
Great. Okay,
Sorry, I
let's
couldn't
see.
show you anymore.
Nitesh, you mentioned your clients, but what is the most strange questions you received for a client?
Ooh.
or just a consideration, a statement?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I've had a lot of weird questions that they've been, people think Google Analytics has the power to do things. Like they were like, can you tell me the name of this user? And I'm like, nope, I have anonymous data. I really cannot. I've heard all sorts of things. Can you message this user? I was like, what? Well, you can't. It's not a messaging platform. Yeah, strange questions. To be honest, I focus a lot more on implementing the solutions, and usually they have their own analyst who does a lot of those questions. But because we work side by side and they're always telling me stuff going on, we've heard some crazy stories. I would say my recommendation is presenting the data back is the biggest, most important piece. Like if you're showcasing your data and you're showcasing thousands of charts, everyone's bored. It's cool for you to see all these charts, but they just want to know, well, what are you saying? So ensure like presentation of the data is crucial.
Clear.
Nice.
And I also have a question.
Yes.
About the funnels that we saw before. How do you would implement the last step? So the one that goes from the things be in the cart from the payment. So just the last one. What are some solutions that could be implemented?
So you mean the actual purchase itself? Like how would we send that data to Google Analytics?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would normally work with the developer, and because you're seeing the order confirmation screen and it's telling you how much, what you bought, we tell the developer, hey, can you give that information to us in a special format? And so they present it easier, and then we just grab that information and we send it in one of the events. So I showed you like a page view event, and I showed you a click navigation event. I didn't tell you that these events you can send information with each of these events. So they're called event parameters. So I could say, hey, this event, for a page view, you want to know the page title, right? So we could have an event parameter saying page title and then the value of the page title. And you could do many of these for all of these events. So for a purchase, you would do something very similar.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question, Erica?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But also with the UX and UI designers.
Yeah, UX and UI, normally they are a stage that happens before us. So they say how they want the site to look. And then when the developers are putting it in, we say, hey, well, when this button is clicked, I want you to send this information in. Or when the purchase is done, please send this in for us. This is important to us. So it's a lot of teams kind of coming together and giving that to the developers to be able to implement correctly. And like I said, if it's a smaller implementation and let's say you didn't have e-commerce, you just had form submissions, you could do this without a developer using a tool like Google Tag Manager.
Clear.
Cool.
Okay, we have another question from Lara. What is the best way to pitch clients to invest in such analysis? Because some just don't get how relevant it could be.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a really good question. I hear it a lot. Even though we are putting a behavioral analytics tool in, if there's no one in the business that's going to look at the data, then over time, this is going to start breaking down. So number one, I would highly recommend that there needs to be a motivation in the business to better their business. If the motivation is not there, then it's very hard. That's sort of to implement a really good implementation of analytics. The other thing that we do that maybe people don't know as much about is if you think about Google Ads, Facebook Ads, all of these tools, they ask us to send them data on when people added to cart or when people purchased. And what this does for them is able to tell them, hey, that person, I sent Erica to the site and she purchased. So Erica is female, she lives here. Why don't I send more people to the site and see if they behave the same way? And it's anonymous information we send in, But Facebook and those tools, because they've sent us that person, they know who it is, even with the anonymous data. So they're saying, oh, Erica actually purchased. And this helps marketing teams tremendously, because the cost of advertising is very high. And if you don't have data going back to these tools to tell them, hey, this is working, this is not working, this person likes it, this country is not interested in your product, that's how they get better. Yeah, it's a very, very good question. And Lara, thank you for so much participation. This is great.
Yeah, thank you, Lara. Yeah. Okay, let's see if we have some other questions or doubts. And I think related to what you just said, I think it's fascinating that with marketing and with data and numbers, we can understand the behavior of people. So something that is not related to numbers, but we can understand how people can behave thanks to some numbers and seeing what they do on the internet. So it's really fascinating, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a very cool tool. The issue is it looks very intimidating, right? So just showing you some of these sections, you're like, whoa. So I would recommend, you know, slowly and steadily you'll get familiar with it. There are, you know, some of the courses. I think Google has a course. They used to have a course for Universal Analytics, a free one. That's their old product. I don't know if they've got a new one for GA4, but the leaders of the industry, or at least the courses that are really good, is 𝗗𝗲𝘀𝗰𝗿. He has a course that's meant to be very good. I haven't done it myself, but he is very known in the industry for his GA4 course. And I think 𝗗𝗲𝘀𝗰𝗿, she's another one. Krista with a K, 𝗗𝗲𝘀𝘰𝗀. She is another person that I believe has a course, and she was ex-Google, and she started sort of training people up. Charles, both of them are very, very good resources. I don't remember who asked that question, but hopefully that's
Mary.
helpful.
Yes, Mary at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is just a curiosity. Did you love maths at school?
Yeah, actually I did. I did. It was I did like it. I think I liked maths because I didn't have to remember anything, you know, like history, you have to remember all these things. Maths is like, once you understand it, you understand it. And I was like, this is so much easier. I have very bad memory.
It has been a pleasure, really.
Likewise, Giuseppe, thank you so much.
Your speech was professional, but also really engaging, and your enthusiasm is engaging too. Thank
you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you for having me and hosting me. It's been a pleasure, and I'm glad we had so many participants. It's great to meet everyone, and thank you all for such great engagement. Yeah. Thank you so much, Nitesh, and thank you also to our people. I like call them people, our community. See you next time. Bye everyone. Thank you.
Bye bye. Thank you, Nitesh.
Bye Erica. Bye Giuseppe.